Hey, wine lovers of the world! Welcome to Conversations About Wine, where we talk about, yes, you guessed it, wine. We help you discover interesting wine and grape varietals around the world. We talk about wine countries, wine regions. We talk with winemakers and wine professionals. And we find interesting projects, products, or services connected with wine and winemaking and more. Pour yourself a glass of wine, sit back, and enjoy. Conversations About Wine. Hey, your host Sasha Pop here, and today we're talking with Charine Tan and Matthew Horkey from Exotic Wine Travel. In a couple of last years, they have produced so much great and valuable content online, from articles on their blog to videos. They wrote 4 books and 5th is just around the corner. They got a crazy number of different wine blogger awards and they are great to hang out with. I know this episode is going to be an epic one, full of great content and a lot of fun and laugh. Enough of the intro. Let's introduce Charine and Matthew. Hey guys, good day.
Hi, good day. Thank you for having us.
Neutral, good morning.
Hey, nice seeing you. And it's crazy. Basically, we are meeting virtually and we are meeting without a glass. Which might be...
I have a coffee mug here.
I have my water bottle. So cheers. Usually when we meet live, we are with a full glass, usually, right?
Yes, usually. But it doesn't happen as often as we all would like, I think.
That's true, especially this year.
Yeah, especially this year.
Oh my God. How are you guys? Where are you? What are you doing at the moment?
Very well. We're currently in Dalmatia, Croatia. We have a temporary house next to the sea, so that's a very good break for us. And
Bastards.
We have been the rest of the world.
We've been just like the rest of the world. It's been a interesting and challenging year. We've been stuck in Croatia ever since COVID happened. COVID started in
well, which is not a bad place to be hanging out, right?
No, it's not. No, there could be much worse places.
So, what are you currently working on?
So because of COVID-19, we haven't been able to travel. Just a couple of months ago, before all of these things happened, we just met in Hungary, right? And we were preparing to write a book about Hungarian wine. However, due to the situation, we are not able to finish our research. We're more than 50% done. So right now we are in Croatia. We are working on a lot of articles about wines from all over the world. Today we're preparing a video about wines from North Macedonia. We're preparing a video about Polish wine. So things and life still pretty much goes on for us because we have always been working remotely. So even when we're back at home, we can still create content for different wine countries.
I think the focus for us, for me especially, is I've been really putting a lot of effort in the YouTube channel because obviously YouTube views, YouTube searches, everything is just spiking during this entire time. And I really needed to revamp the channel and make it a little bit more modern, a little more presentable. But so that's something I've really been working hard on during this time. So that's
okay. Yeah. So even if it's challenging, it's a new opportunities for pimping up stuff that you already have, right?
Absolutely. I think it's the same for everybody, whatever career, whatever work and project you're doing. It's a good time to take a step back and actually figure out what really works, how to connect with people, how to serve your community better. And this is the perfect time to think about all of these things.
It sucks, I think, for everybody, but also people that are taking advantage of it and look in a different light, see it as, in a way, it's a much needed reset. It gives you a chance to sit back, reflect on what's working in your life, what's not working, and move on from there.
Especially the case for a lot of people who are starting to go a little bit more digital in terms of their marketing and their outreach. I think that's a brilliant thing to do. I mean, this is the future of business and community connection. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look at me. I started doing it after 5-6 years thinking about it. Now I said, okay, now it's a chance. Now it's a chance. So let's talk about 2015. Go back when you started your project. You left Singapore
I am American, but I lived in Singapore for 5.5 years, and Charine is Singaporean.
Yeah.
And we left Singapore in 2015. Our kind of corporate normal life. Charine was
I was in a management consulting company.
And I was a chiropractor with a fairly large practice, and we took a sabbatical.
Okay.
And after 7-8 months, that sabbatical turned into exotic wine travel.
But you were into.
It was mostly Charine's idea because.
Well, it was a practical choice because we were spending most of our savings on wine and in wine countries. So we had those money have to turn into something, right?
Okay, yeah. So hobby has to turn into something, right? Yeah.
Well, we started out in the typical wine countries, but by the time we made it to Georgia, Turkey, Georgia, and Armenia, there's so little written in English about those countries. And especially Georgia. Georgia kind of got in. It's having its moment in the sun now, but in 2015, that was actually a little bit before everything started to blow up, and there wasn't really a lot written. Alice Firing's book had not come out yet. Actually, our book about Turkey, Georgia, Turkey, Armenia would have been the first about Georgia by a few months, but Alice Firing beat us by a few months. But
okay.
that at that point, it was kind of out of necessity too, because we wanted to find out more about the wines and the stories and the indigenous grapes from these countries, and we couldn't find anything.
Yeah, so there was a pain point to be solved. We realized that there was a gap kind of in the wine industry back then. There wasn't a lot of information. So we wanted to put together whatever experience we had, whatever problems, challenges, or solutions that we'll come up with. And we wanted to share whatever that we experienced with other people, because whatever we experience as a wine traveler, I'm sure other people would experience the same thing too.
So you started with Georgia, Caucasus.
Turkey, Georgia, Armenia. And Turkey was incredibly challenging because, as you know, and it's a lot more extreme now, what's happening over there. Put politics aside. Obviously, it's a Muslim country, so you can't promote alcohol. So it's really difficult to even do, like, some wineries can't even do tastings. Yeah. You can't even advertise. When you're in the country and you look up a winery's website, there's a screen that's blocked that says that it's basically saying that you can't access the website. You can only access those websites outside of Turkey. So that was really, really challenging. And it's unfortunate because Turkey, that little triangle, Turkey, Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Iran is kind of the birthplace of wine.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of interesting indigenous grapes there. It's just, and some pretty exciting wines, a lot of rubbish, but some pretty exciting wines. So it's unfortunate.
Yeah, I remember one time, this is something that I will always remember. We bought a wine that we've been searching for a very long time. It was an indigenous variety. And then we picked up the bottle, and what the shop person did was he wrapped it in brown paper, like several layers, and then he put it inside a black plastic bag, and then he tied it up. I was like, is it something so bad and so dangerous that you have to put several layers to the wine?
And in that town, the restaurant owner, we asked if we could have wine. He said, sure. And he put it on the table. He's like, can you just put it under the table so like the rest of the customers don't see?
Imagine that. You really have to drink very discreetly.
That being said, this is not Istanbul. This is way out in the east, where actually there are a lot of old vineyards. I remember finding that. We didn't even discuss this, finding that bottle. It was a bottle we've been searching for a long time. And it was in this random, dingy corner shop in this small town way out east in the middle of nowhere.
Great. Yeah, I mean, I bet you have so many stories like this because you have been traveling around for what, five years now in all the different countries around me. Basically, you were also in Slovenia a couple of times. And it was fun. We actually met in Budapest. I mean, in Hungary, close to Budapest, right?
Yeah. That was the first time we met in person. That was the very first time.
Yeah. We talked a couple of times over virtual, over different platforms. But the first time where we met, and then we got to hang out together in my car for like a couple of hours.
Well, for people watching, that was a good random story. We were just going through a whirlwind tour of press trips in Slovakia, Hungary, Romania, and we had to get from this random rural place outside of Budapest to Slovenia, to Vipava, another random rural place. Not random rural place.
I mean, rural,
It's
with
not
connections,
connection. And we were trying to figure out how we were going to do it, and the organizers were trying to figure it out, and then you offered to drive us. So that really
in my old Citroen, but we managed. It was great fun. So we had an
Go ahead, sorry.
I mean, no, it's what happens when you're in an industry with nice people that like to, you know, talk about wine, talk about different winemakers. So we could probably talk today for like 5-6 hours, and it would be an interesting talk. So
We'll have to open the bottle of wine though at some point.
Oh definitely. But as we are recording this at 10 in the morning, well, okay, we all have tasted at 10 in the morning already a couple of times, right? It wouldn't be too early for us.
There's a difference between tasting and drinking. I don't know if we could start drinking at 10. But so we travel full time, and not only we kind of been, you know, people know us a lot in Central and Eastern Europe, but all over the world. We wrote a book about the region of California, Santa Barbara County, one of our favorite. We spent 3 months in Mexico. Actually, we were going to write a book about Mexican wines, but that kind of fell through. Thailand, Bali, some really interesting off the beaten path regions all over the world.
So I mean, you have been traveling around but you kind of now are a lot of time in Croatia, not just because now you have to be there, but you kind of found Croatia or Zagreb and different parts of Croatia to be a nice place for you in the last, let's say, maybe 2 years or so.
Yep. It all started when we came here to do our research in 2016, and by 2017 we published a book about Croatian wine, and that was very well received, and that pretty much just became a bigger project where we started doing public relations, marketing, and several other projects, video productions for the wineries here. But on top of that, it's because we really love the lifestyle here. It's a beautiful country with a lot of great wines and nice food, good people.
True.
Not only that, it was a lot of it's kind of out of necessity too, because Croatia is so centrally located between Central, Western Europe, and Eastern Europe. So it just makes it a little bit easier to get all around the regions.
True. So you know Croatia pretty well. So maybe we start talking about Croatian wine. So you have done a lot of different videos also. So for people interested in Croatian wine, just go to exoticwinetravel.com. There's a lot of content there, a lot of different links. You can read, you can watch. I especially liked your 60-second session or 60-second episodes on different wines and different things about Croatian wine. So what do you think about, I mean, quality of Croatian wine, and which are the let's say indigenous varieties that you would recommend to someone when thinking about Croatia?
I think in general, let's start off with the general impression and general standard first. Just like any countries, even Italy, Spain, right? Croatia has a lot of bad wines to visitors who are just popping in, because it's difficult. I mean, it has so many producers, it has many indigenous varieties, and when you're just popping in to the country, you know, let's say just like a typical tourist who are coming here, it's really difficult to find good wines. When you're going to the restaurant, Konoba and all that, you're tasting mostly homemade wines or more bigger production wines. So that was actually something we were trying to solve with our book and our project, to do the research, to help people save time and money, because we would have done all the filtration and pull out all the good wines. So
it's a great book and great resource, by the way. I of course much. I have it. I was one of the first to buy it, so it's great. I use it for the reference all the time. So thanks.
You still do
writing
right
this.
now?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I'm happy to hear that. So yeah, I think it takes a lot of work. Not that I think, it's as a matter of truth, it takes a lot of work to get the stuff. But I would say that definitely Croatia, of course, has a lot of great wines, and I would say fine wines as well. It just takes a lot of work to get to that. Varieties wise, you want to start first?
I guess Before I'm going to preface that with piggyback off what Charine says. I think that because we do a lot of work in Portugal, France, Italy, Spain, USA, all the the established fine wine regions. I think in Central and Eastern Europe that Slovenia, Hungary, and maybe to a lesser extent Croatia, those are the countries that are kind of leading the pack in overall quality. When talking about overall quality, they've kind of been doing it for the longest time since independence, since all these countries started to break free, et cetera, et cetera. For indigenous grape varieties, I think that's what's exciting, because Croatia has about 140, I think. I can't remember.
140,
and about 50 in production, with more and more changing all the time. I'll talk about the ones I like, and you can talk about the ones
we do not like the grape variety.
Yeah, I know.
Exactly. I get quite excited about the grape Poship in Dalmatia. It's a white grape.
Oh yeah,
Poship, bigger bodied wine, kind of more anywhere from Rhone style in the south of France to even maybe bigger Chardonnay, even Meursault in style. And they can be bright. Pineapple, it takes oak well. Gurk also is only on the island.
I love Gurk. Yeah.
It's only 20 something hectares. Outstanding grape variety. I tell people, think about this kind of got this herbal qualities of a Sauvignon Blanc, and then you kind of mix that with the body of a big rich Chardonnay, and that's what you get out of Gurk. In fact, we brought a Gurk to a very famous wine writer in the U.S., been in wine for about 50 years. And she said, I remember she tasted it. She said, I've been tasting wine for 48 years. Takes a lot for me to get excited about a wine. This gets me excited. So
great.
So those are two of my favorite. I think that I know you're Slovenian, so this might be a point of contention.
No problem.
But Croatia does claim. Croatia claims that Turan, is also the same as Torano in Friuli, Venezia Giulia. I think the wine can be exciting. It's a high acid red grape, can be pretty rustic, iron nail type flavors. But when it ages well, it really can taste like a Chianti Classico. It really can come along and develop those flavors if the acidity is handled under control. And before we go into the grapes that you like, the one that I'm pretty high on, it's in Slovenia as well, Lashki Riesling, Graševina. Riesling.
When done well, right?
Yes, a grape that's not taken seriously, a grape that's actually, I think the problem is all the countries can't come together and decide on one name for the grape variety, which
that's a branding problem.
Jancis Robinson in her book Wine Grapes chose Graševina as the name because there's a story. Maybe they say it's kind of from the Slavonian region, but it can make wines from sparkling, dry, semi-dry, off-dry, all the way to semi-sweet, sweet, and then predicate wines, ice wines. It can do the whole gamut. And because it's not taken so seriously, you can get these wines at fantastic prices. So that's what I recommend. Your grapes?
I actually like the grapes that you mentioned too, Anyway, for me, the first grape that I would always recommend people to try is Malvasia Istasca, which is also found in Slovenia, also found in Italy. I think that it is a grape that most people wouldn't appreciate because there are many different facets of it. Like when you make it into a fresh style, which Croatia is really good at, you get this citrusy note, acacia flower, really crisp, very nice summer wine. But also you have the macerated version, which I absolutely love.
Me too. Yeah.
So that's a little bit better as a whole in this category, Although Croatia is also catching up on the oaky, more least aging kind of style. When it's a bigger style, it has a fuller body, but yet it remains this floral character. On the finish, it usually provide a very juicy tannin that's not too bitter or astringent. So that gives you a very full body, but yet at the same time very fresh kind of wine. And I think Malvasia, if you make it into different style, it can take you through the entire meal as well, from fresh to like macerated version to surly old aging. So I think that's a really food-friendly wine. Another grape that I really like, it's not exactly considered Croatia. It's Maraschino, also called Rukatats, and it's also called Malvasia di Biancalunga, Malvasia di Chianti. So, but he's been in Croatia and Dalmatia, North Dalmatia, in fact, for a few hundred years already. And so they pretty much call it their own as well. And that wine is very interesting. You don't get a lot of single varietal wine, but when it's made well, it's really full-bodied. It's surprising how full-bodied it is, how fruity it is. So that's another wine that is really worth seeking out. For red, we will be Plavac Mali, Croatia.
Yeah, yes. That's your
That's the one we did. Sharine's so huge on Plavac Mali.
But I love tannins. I really chase for tannins. So you can see why I would love Plavac Mali. Although Plavac Mali, I think, is one grape that is the flagship wine, but it also gives Croatia a very bad reputation because it's so easy to make a terrible Plavac Mali.
Oh yeah. So whenever the listeners or who is watching, whenever you ask for Plavac Mali, please go for like a little bit better or good Plavac Mali. Please do a research. Don't just take the first Plavac Mali you can
find. Right. But the producers are getting better. Actually,
yes,
I'm starting to gain an affinity. I used to really loathe Plavac Mali, but I'm starting to get an affinity for it because when handled well, delicately, it can be quite Nebbiolo Alianico-esque. Mm-hmm. So there are more and more producers that are really doing a good job with it here. So that's really, really cool. Go ahead.
The thing about Plavac Mali is it provides a flavor profile that is quite unlike any other grape varieties. I would say any other grape varieties in the world. It can be savory, floral, spicy, tannic, full body, all at the same time.
The other one we forgot to mention is Babic. There's not so much of it made, but it's kind of like like if you mixed for me Plavac Mali and Sangiovese maybe and put them together, that's what you get. A lot of people believe it's the grape with the highest potential. There's just not a lot of it made. On a side note, you were talking about Malvasia. You love the Slovenians, how they do it. Actually, we love Slovenian wines so much. We just never got around to. You got Robert out there that wrote a great book about Slovenia.
Oh yeah. I just talked with him in one of the episodes. So I think he has done a great job, and the book is really like informational and very nicely made. And that's his life work, I think.
Yeah, we would like to spend more time. It's unfortunate because Croatia is not in the Schengen zone. Slovenia is. So because we also need to allocate days for other parts of the Schengen zone, Hungary, Italy, France. We can't stay a concentrated time in Slovenia. But I love the wines of Slovenia a lot.
Yeah, you have been a couple of times. Yeah, we talked about it already between us. So it's also really nice wine country that many people don't know. But
I think one of my favorite areas to drink from right now, currently, actually for the last couple of years, is the whole when you talk about Friuli, Venezia, Giulia, over to Goriška Brda, Kras, Vipava in Slovenia, down to Istria. That's kind of a region that really hits my palate.
And also when you talk about Ljubljana, I love going to Ljubljana. I do find that the dining scene there is a little bit more sophisticated than Zagreb.
Yeah, it is. But Zagreb is catching up, I think.
I think that the restaurant scene, and I've been openly critical for people that are watching visiting Croatia. It's the low and the mid range offer terrible value for money. If you're going for the high end, which is not very many restaurants, they are good value for money relative to fine dining. But for the most part, that's why Croatia's tourism is built on a lot of self-catering. It's mostly apartments, not hotels, not restaurants. People are coming here usually cooking themselves, enjoying the coast, et cetera, et cetera. That's one area where Croatia, the whole Croatian tourism industry in Croatia as a whole could improve vastly.
Okay. We'll send the clip somewhere.
I have no
the suggestion.
I have no problem with that.
No. Yeah.
When we're in Croatia, we do not eat out very often. I don't find the value for money there, and the cuisine stuff to be as exciting. Sorry, the restaurant cuisine. There is very exciting cuisine, domestic cuisine to be found all throughout the country. Great.
Oh yeah. Great
climate. As of all this part of the world, but seeing that come into actualization doesn't happen very often.
My favorite in Croatia is just fresh fish and then great wine to go with it, or some piece of meat and then some really nice red. That's also what I like. But because you have such a great access to fresh seafood, I'm a great seafood guy. So, but with seafood, most of the time you don't need a lot to do, or cook something fancy, because for me, just fresh fish on the grill, that does it. It's wonderful.
We're going off on a tangent here, and Charine probably will piggyback off this more than me because she's more knowledgeable about food, the science of food. A lot of Croatians, like when I complain about restaurant scene, talk about that. Oh, I just need fresh seafood. I personally believe that yes, fresh ingredients are super important, but if you take those fresh ingredients, I think the Italians, the guys in the south of France, do it best, and then you just expand upon that.
Yeah, sure.
Then it goes to a whole nother level.
Yeah, because you do need to build, like, if you're thinking about food and cuisine as part of your cultural identity, it's easy to pull out seafood from the sea, which Croatia is really good at, especially when you're here. However, when you're thinking about it as a whole, as an identity sophistication, it's not possible to export a cuisine based on just fresh food. So I think it's
that's true. Yeah. That's So what are your let's say, I mean, that's maybe a hard question to answer or not. I don't know. What are your favorite places in Croatia?
Wow.
Favorite spots, like
actually it's not tough.
It can be winery, can be like geographical location. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I will always enjoy coming to Dalmatia, because every single time I'm in Dalmatia, which is like a few times a year, I still go wow, and I'm always just in awe with how the place looks. But when it comes to food and wine, I'd actually prefer Istria more than anywhere else in Croatia.
Oh yeah.
Istria is the exception with restaurant cuisine. The Canobas and everything can come up with some creative stuff, and it's really good. The coast gets all the hype. I have to admit, for me, by far, my favorite island for wine, food, atmosphere is Korčula. It's not, believed legend is that Marco Polo was born there. I don't know if that's actually two of the best producers in Croatia are on the island, in our opinion. I think you share my opinion. Bire and Krajancic, and Korčula town's a fantastic mini Dubrovnik without the tourists. It's a little bit offland, so you have to take some effort to get there. I think it's just a wonderful, wonderful place. And even
especially if you love Poship, then Krajancic
is the home of Poship.
Yeah.
I've grown an affinity the last couple of years for some of the continental portions of the country, up in Međimurje, up in the north, on the border with Austria and Slovenia. It's hilly and it's really beautiful. There can be some interesting cuisine. And I do like going east of Slavonia because my father's a large scale farmer. It kind of gives me that rustic feel, and the people, you really get a sense of culture there. There's not a lot of tourists make it out that way. So you get a sense of what it is to be, in that part of the world. You really feel a little bit more culture, a little more flavor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you've been in Croatia now for a couple of years. Is there any change in the wine culture or quality of wine? Do you see more and more winemakers that are making better wine or great wine or premium style, or are you seeing some change?
The direct answer is definitely yes, but it's also something that is more of a regional thing, because a lot of countries in this part of the world pretty much emerged into this modern winemaking or a new era all at about the same time in the 90s, right? After all the political things was over. But also specifically in Croatia, yes, when you think about indigenous varieties, I mean, it really takes years to understand how to handle it in the cellar, also in the vineyard, and they are getting better. New varieties or new old varieties, so local varieties that have been vinified on a commercial level are slowly coming out each and every year. Take for example, Škrlet, which is from the northern part of Croatia. You can see the drastic improvement, but also in the more known varieties such as Plavac Mali, you do see that producers that are known for making other wines like Better Pochette are now making good Plavac Mali as well.
Yeah, I would say overall the quality continues to improve. The cool thing maybe about, like I said, the higher quality countries, Slovenia, Croatia, and Hungary, is that it seems like the top producers keep improving, and that kind of pulls everybody else. You don't always see that in the other countries. You see in the other countries in this region, you see a lot of times the top producers raising their game, but the mid and the low end kind of have stayed the same.
Stays back.
4 or 5 years.
And Slovenia and Croatia, also Hungary, we have a couple of, let's say, celebrity status winemakers, right?
Yeah.
And then from my experience going to different festivals and around the vineyards and winemakers in this area, I always feel that then there are, let's say, family wineries when the young son takes over, and then father stays as a consultant or still working with son, but then then it's new branding maybe, and then they think that they talk about let's start a new line of wines. And I think that this is something really nice, because there's some new fresh blood coming, like new winemakers taking over, and then there are a couple of steps trying to beat their father or whatever kind of healthy competition. I have to now go one step further.
Yeah,
I agree. Yes, it's the younger generation has traveled. They've seen part of the problem. Wine life is complacency. When you always think what you're producing is the best. Okay, it might be the best too because you put your heart and soul in it. But the world's a global marketplace now. It's not a local marketplace, not a regional marketplace.
Yeah.
So the younger generation has traveled, has seen things, has seen what works in other markets, what doesn't work, and that pushes the quality bar.
They have totally different perspective, I believe, because maybe still father that is now 60 years old or something like this, or 60 years young, let's put it this way, but maybe he has started his own thing when he got the winery from his father, starting to sell to the neighbors. And now when you have bottles and you have different quality, different markets, then this is totally different game, right? You're not selling to the neighbor or only to Zagreb in the case of Croatia, but you're selling worldwide.
Yeah, and I guess that's the power of travel. Travel really broadens horizons and opens perspectives, allows you to take in and absorb new thoughts, ideas, and things that you perceive.
Okay, can we go to Istria? Because you spent a lot of time in Istria, and we were kind of more talking about Dalmatia than Istria, which is okay. I also love Dalmatia a lot. But you had a really nice time, I would say, from your videos that you produced in Istria. That was in the April, May somewhere?
in June. We invited you to come over, remember?
Yes.
You couldn't make it over.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I would love to. What did you find out? What was your stay there? I mean, how did you?
Well, we've been going to Istria for years. I think it's very exciting in terms of everybody, the quality. They really work together, so the quality of wine gets pushed up higher and higher and higher. I think the food is really, really exciting. You still have seafood, you have some continental food, you have some mountain. You can get some sheep's milks, and they hold on to their traditions, and they're very proud people.
I mean, when you compare Istria to Dalmatia, I would say the average standard of wine and food in Istria, they are probably higher than Dalmatia. No, without a doubt, actually, Istrian wine in general is higher than Dalmatia. They also have the Vinistria Association that helps them to to push the wine quality up. I think also Istria, it's meant for people who are more into finesse, more freshness in the wine, because while it's wetter over there in Istria, there's more rain. It's also very sunny. Whereas in Dalmatia, you're getting a lot of tannins and things like that. So in Istria, it's also largely also seem to be very influenced by the Italians. So they often talk about wine pairing. You know, when they're drinking wine, they'll be like, "Oh, this will be good with beef. This will be good with steak. This will be good with seafood." So they have food in mind almost all the time when we talk to winemakers.
I think the great thing about any visitor, that anybody that wants to go to Istria, is the quality food and wine is just high all across the board. You can buy a fresh Malvasia, fresh, young, crispy Malvasia from anybody, and it's delicious. Usually the red blends are quite good. For a wine geek, sometimes, like somebody that's there all the time, for me, it can get a little monotonous, a little bit boring, because I don't want to be drinking fresh Malvasia all the time. The same type of reds. But that's it. For me, it doesn't matter. It's all about the people that are visiting, going, trying to experience, and you're not going to get let down. You're only there for a few days. You can only try a few wines. You're generally going to get a standard high level of quality.
Yeah, also bear in mind that Istria is the home of some of the best olive oil in the world. And also it is the home of truffles. They have black and white truffles.
I forgot about that. The olive oil is pretty darn exceptional. And the olive oil is pretty darn exceptional there.
Yeah. And they have totally different varieties than, let's say, in Dalmatia, where olive oil is also really good, but it's different.
Yeah, I'd like to see, and I think it will happen, more quality, in Dalmatia it revolves around, traditional, maybe more oxidative style olive oil. More quality producers, which there are some of the wineries. I still think one of the best olive oils in Croatia is by Miloš. He's in Dalmatia, Peninsula. He he presses it somewhere else, but it's done really, really well. But overall in quality, Istria is pretty darn high.
On the note, when you talk about Miloš, was funny because the last time we visited them, Ivan, the son and the winemaker as well, said that, we make our wine naturally and traditionally, but we make our olive oil clean and modernly.
That's great. That's funny. Because traditionally is not that good, probably, or whatever.
There's no doubt about that.
Okay, so let's go to Hungary, where we met for the first time in person. And we met there a couple of times, I think 3 times now. So thanks to shout out to Hungarian Wine website and Agnes to bring us together basically there.
Were you? Wait, when did I? Oh, yes, I saw. We saw you before all this stuff started to go haywire. We saw you in February. Hungary, I think is. For me, I think it's kind of what Turkey was when we started. It's really a challenge for wine love. There's so many high quality producers, wines. They have triple the vineyard areas of Slovenia, triple the vineyard areas of Croatia or of Serbia. There's 65,000 hectares of vineyards. They produce a lot of wine. It's really cool because there's so many small producers, small mom and pop shops that make outstanding wine that just sell locally. It's really a challenge to find and locate some of these wineries. There's so much wine being made, and also the language is what makes it super difficult. They're very proud people, so they don't speak English outside, Budapest, not even sometimes in Budapest. And the labels, the Hungarian language is very difficult for a lot of people. So the labels are all in Hungarian. It's really a challenge. It's really like grape hunting, wine hunting.
Yeah, just think about saying cheers to someone is By the time you're done saying cheers, I would have finished a glass of wine already.
But I don't know. You were quite excited about the wines, right? The couple times.
Yeah. I have to be honest. My wine journey is like maybe 6 years now, and I am quite good with Slovenian wine. but okay, I know also Croatian wine and of course some international wine, but I was not aware that the quality of wine and the diversity of wine in Hungary is, I mean, that they have such great wine. Yeah.
Well, Hungary it's a blessing and a curse, like anything in life, as they have Tokai. Tokai, one of
which is plus and minus for them, right?
Yeah, which is one of the greatest historically and currently one of the greatest wines in the world. But then you don't want to be pigeonholed into sweet wine, because sweet wine is a difficult sell these days, because you can get sweetness from anything now. You can have Coca-Cola for 50 cents. Why do you want to spend 50 euros on a bottle of sweet Tokai?
Yeah.
But in general, there's so much. Sometimes by the international press, it's just focused on Tokai. Like WSET, when they do their unit on the Wine and Spirits Trust, when they do their unit on Hungary, it's just Tokai. They don't do Hungary in general. And Hungary has the quality can be outstanding in a lot of the region.
Yeah.
Compared
I know.
sorry.
And I know, Matthew, you are big on Bicavero, right?
Yes.
On bull's blood.
I'm huge on it. Bicavero bull's blood, for those in the past, especially the Brits, used to import a lot of really thin, acidic, crappy bull's blood. But there's really a movement in Hungary to bring back Bicavero and make it site-specific, single vineyard, parcel specific. And we've had examples that taste anywhere comparable to like Village level red Burgundy to Chianti Classico type flavors. So really exciting wines.
Yeah, the thing about Bull's Blood is it can come from two main wine regions, and you can pretty much blend a lot of great varieties into Bull's Blood. So you, exactly like what you say, it can manifest into like a full-bodied wine to a medium-bodied crisp wine that again can take you through in many occasions.
And when people visit, you can get these wines, and sometimes wines aged for peanuts. Because Bull's Blood still doesn't have that great of a reputation. So I encourage people to try them. Maybe a little bit more mid to higher range price. I'm saying 10 euros. In general, they're about 10 to 20 euros. Of course, now there are Bicaveros. Actually, there's one that's 100 euros. Actually, but generally 10 to 20 euros is going to get you, maybe even less. 8 to 20 euros is going to get you a lot of wine.
Yeah. I remember on the last tasting we were together in Budapest, I actually tasted a lot of Bicavero because I was nicely surprised, and of course I know the blend. I mean the brand, or how would I put it? But I wanted to taste really like how diverse can it be, and it's really nice, like you said, from something more kind of fresh and acidic to something really full-bodied.
Well, you have Eger, the two regions, Eger in the north, volcanic soils, and then you have Sexard in the south, which is warmer and it's more loose. So in Eger is much more cooler, and also the blending requirements are a little bit different. Both, obviously, you have to have a lot of Kek Frankos and a lot of Kadarka or Frankovka. Frankovka
Modra Frankinja here, Slovenian.
And
Slovenian grape.
Yes, and Kadarka. But you can, for instance, there are different grapes you can blend. Blauburgunder, Zweigelt in the north. Down in the south in Sexard, you can put Tannat, Sagrantino, a lot of different interesting grapes.
Yeah. So from the white wines in Hungary, what would you say? Which are your best?
Most people are familiar with Fumin because of Tokai, but there is the other part of Tokai that is less talked about is Heslevelű, which is more which brings the florality to Tokai even in the dry wine as well, and that's definitely something worth seeking out. The acidity is not as high as Fumin. It probably provides a little bit more shoulder, a little bit more phenolic than Fumin as well. But on its own, it makes a very accessible wine even at a younger age. For Fumin, you are chasing more of this acidic elegance that tastes better over the years, but Heslevelű is more accessible and immediately more approachable.
I think in general, the whites because Hungary produces, like most of the countries in this region, about the same as Slovenia and Croatia, about 70% of the production is white, 30% is red. In Hungary, you can get pretty good quality, decent quality, but I would say whites in general are pretty uniform in style, high acid, not tons of fruit, mineral, maybe not so easy to drink, even though they're higher quality. Although what Charine mentioned, there are specific grapes and certain regions that are actually really exciting. Tokaj is one of them. Shomlo is a wine region I really love. Think about these high acid, barrel fermented, kind of rustic mineral whites that are not so easy to drink. There's really interesting stuff found throughout the country, and Formant is grown and harsh level is grown in all parts of the country.
Yeah,
so different expressions. That was great.
So many. Go ahead.
On that note, Ola's Riesling, so Grashevina, it's planted in so many countries like Austria, Slovenia, Croatia. But personally, for me, I don't know whether you agree, Matt. I find the best expression of Ola's Riesling actually in Hungary.
I think I found the best. They actually, some of their locals are not so high on it, but I think found some of the most exciting, for you, Lasky Riesling, Welsh Riesling, I think I found some of the most exciting ones in Hungary.
So why do you think so? I mean, what's the reason?
So I have found really good examples in Balaton Lake, also in Shomlo, like what Matt mentioned earlier. I think that they have nailed down this site-specific expression for the grape variety. Very often, the Ola's Riesling there can be quite full-bodied. It's not as aromatic as what you would get in Croatia. It's not as acidic or not as fresh as what you would get in Slovenia. But what it provides is this mineral quality that differs from region to region in Hungary, and it also gives you more of a textural feel than something focusing on aromas.
I think also because they don't have the warmth that you're going to get obviously in Croatia, Slovenia. It's a little cooler, so they have to get creative with lees contact, with barrel fermentation and stuff like that. And I think me specifically, I can taste the difference. A lot of Hungary's home to a lot of volcanic terroirs, a lot of volcanic regions, and I do think that adds some kind of flavor to a grape like Ola's Riesling that up there doesn't have as much fruit expression.
Yeah, and I think here in Slovenia, especially, and also in Croatia, a lot of Laški and Graševina is still made fresh. I mean, there are a couple of examples that, they use lees for maturing or some even barrel fermented now, or, so I think that when it's done properly, it can be a really, really nice wine.
I'm surprised.
I love it. Yeah.
I haven't seen so many macerated or orange examples in Slovenia, which I would expect. There's one producer doing Krauthacker does an excellent macerated orange wine out of Graševina. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah. Maybe for the Slovenian winemakers, that's an idea where to put a lot of Laški, because we have a lot of Laški.
Yes, over there in Steyerska, something. Get on.
Yeah, in Vipava Valley, you also have a lot, and yeah. Okay, so what's your next step? What's your plans for next 3 years?
You want to start first?
Well, I guess.
Or is it a secret?
For the immediate future, we're in the same boat as everybody around the world. We kind of don't know how the world is going to evolve. I think I'm putting tremendous amount of focus on the YouTube channel. I think that's how people consume content these days. Video.
Yeah.
I realize that I'm self-actualized enough to know that I'm not the best writer in the world.
Well, okay, but hold on. You got a lot of. You both got a lot of awards for, like,
I think it's mostly
wine blogging and okay.
Sharine's editing. She edits all. So, but I think videos is incredibly powerful.
Yes. Yeah.
I think in wine that, I come to a harsh realization. When I started, I thought that we thought that it would be, kind of easy to break out and become bigger and have your audience expanded, but in realization, obviously wine's such a small niche. I think with video you have a greater ability to broaden the audience, maybe draw some people in, and more people are coming more and more people are coming online and watching more and more video. YouTube's the second largest search engine in the world, owned by the largest search engine in the world, Google.
Yeah.
And you got to think of how many more billions of people are coming on YouTube with the internet spreading all over the world. So that's where I put most of my focus.
But also in general as well, from a strategy perspective, I think not just in wine, but a lot of companies, enterprises should realize that community building should itself become part of the strategy. So I think for Exotic Wine Travel, our main goal is to focus on community building, engaging people with content, with interactive content. That is the overview as well. While Matt is focusing on the YouTube channel, creating more videos, I'm looking much more into the corporate side of the business. I have currently, we are in talk to write a more scientific, a more of a reference book about wine. Because ultimately now that, our usual style of book is much more about wine and travel. It's more of a guidebook. And now it may not be very useful for people, especially Croatian wine or even like Hungarian wines, they don't really get exported very much. So I'm looking more into the editorial part of the content, something that is more lasting. Yeah.
So it's a constantly evolving thing. I don't think we have it all figured out. I don't think there are very few people in wine that do have it figured out.
Yeah. But it's sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was thinking the problem is also, I think, how to attract more new people to try better wine, not to drink bulk wine, not to be satisfied with 4, 5, 3, 6, whatever euros of liters or whatever, and how to talk to them, and what's the content that they need that this will make a switch in their head and say, ooh, I want to try this. I don't want to drink the same wine from the same winemaker all the time in my life, because life is short to drink bad wine, right? And let's be honest, they are drinking bad wine.
The wine industry has been historically poor, pretty archaic and poor at building and attracting new customers. I think there's a great opportunity for the U.S., for instance, millennials. And I hate when people have a negative connotation of millennials, because you got to realize the higher end of the spectrum is 34, 35 now. So they're in peak earning periods of life. And statistically, they are more willing to spend more and try, maybe not be as brand loyal and buy cases and cases and cases like the old one, but that's an archaic model. That's an old way of doing things. So there is a good opportunity for people to get out and try different things, try new things, try more higher quality things. Just obviously might not be as in high quantities.
Yeah, 100% with you about converting people, even like beer drinkers to liking wine, and getting people to put more focus into drinking better wine. I do think that is the most important part. We may not have it nailed down, but the way that we see it is through this cross-pollination reference. Like, why we travel so much is because the only way to get Italians to even try like Slovenian wine is to kind of refer Slovenian wines and put it in the reference of Italian wine. Like, or if you like let's say, or even Hungary, like if you like Blaufränkisch, you probably, or if you like Sangiovese, you probably would like Blaufränkisch. So it's very important to have a very worldwide view about wine in order to give people references, because ultimately that's communication, right? You have to talk in someone else's language and what they care most about.
It's
so
different.
do you
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, because I'm switching then the content.
Okay, just saying it's difficult in the I'm not even just picking on Southeastern Europe here, Central Eastern Europe, all over the world, but especially here when you have in all the ex-Yugoslavian countries, if you have these superstar winemakers, wineries that have no problem selling their wines locally to a domestic market that's thirsty for local things, what happens when that dries out? Yeah, you can be the best thing here, but you have to also know what's being drunk, outside this little bubble. And to be honest, everybody's in the business of selling, surviving. So that's not even a big concern if you can sell everything domestically. But at least that's the power of the younger generation coming into the businesses, to have that foresight and at least start thinking about those issues.
So, do you think like maybe like this virtual tastings or something like this is a way to attract new people
I definitely think
with
so.
some samples and like yeah.
I definitely think so, and I definitely witness it as well because it makes winemakers more accessible to people. People who work in a 9 to 5 job, they don't have time to travel. However, when they have the opportunity to meet even just one winemaker that they like, they get more excited by the concept of tasting wine. Wine becomes not just something on the table, but it's much more of an experience for them. Especially
Yeah.
people who live in a city that's not in a wine country, it opens them up to a new world. And doing a tasting online from home, it gets your children involved as well, or your teenage like son and daughter. It really brings the community together and let people experience wine in a very different way.
And to piggyback off that, not just consumers, I find it actually pretty powerful for the wine media. Uh, Obviously, the wineries associations don't have to spend as much money bringing people there.
Yeah.
It can be there's nothing that substitutes. That's the best, because to really understand wine, you have to feel a connection to a person, a place, to see it, to feel it, to touch, taste, and smell. But I do think during these times, it's quite a cost-effective way for producers, regions to showcase their wines.
Yeah. Especially,
I'm doing, so for instance, I'm doing a master class to a live audience in Korea next month, but I will be doing it
nice.
via Zoom about Istrian wines. So
Okay.
I think there's creative ways that you can make this stuff effective.
Yeah, and I mean, normally in other industries or whatever you want to learn, education is just fast forwarding to internet. I mean, it has been so in the last couple of years, but now because of the crisis, because of Corona, everything is just like exploded, and people can learn and experience different stuff, like we are talking now. Yeah, and it's in a way easier and more accessible. Okay, it's not that much personal. I love when I come to the winery and I talk to the winemaker in person, but not everybody, like you said, Charine, not everybody can do this, right? Especially, I mean, this year or next year. We don't know what will happen. Hopefully, I don't know, something will change very soon. So for the end, thank you very much. I wanted to talk about Corona crisis and what have you experienced with the winemakers, but I'm leaving this out because we had a great content and it's been almost an hour, so I think it's enough for today. Big thanks for big thanks for your time. I know you're busy, and I'm really I appreciate you, whatever you have done so far, and for your time for this interview. Hope to see you soon, and that we can hug, and then we can drink in person, uncork a couple of really nice bottles and enjoy.
We hope so. Let's hope the world clears up in the next few months. We'll see. Who knows?
Enjoy in Dalmatia, enjoy in Croatia. However you have, I mean, for how long you have to be there. I hope you can travel soon and do also some other stuff, because I know you. I mean, you're exotic wine traveler, so you like to travel also. So thanks again, and see you soon. Hopefully.
We'll see.
Thank you. It's good to see you.
Thank you.
Bye.
We'll see you too.
Bye bye.